Zu unserem letzten Beitrag.
It was often a very magical world, the world we loved to enter into when we were children, the world that was relayed to us through fairy tales and books. And it is in no way less fantastical today when we look at drawings or fossils of plants and life forms that were alive in ancient times, life forms that existed on our planet thousands of years ago. Oversized trees and animals that have long gone extinct and are nowhere to be found anymore. Until a few weeks ago, I personally would have never thought it possible to be able to bring those plants and animals of ancient times back into our reality today. But it is possible. Our report by Horst Klein-Hörsterkamp details exactly how and where this has occurred.
Guido Ebner
and Heinz Schürch, two scientists from the Department of Research and Development of one of the 10 biggest chemical corporations in the world.
The
Swiss corporation sells products and services in 3 different market areas: health, agriculture and industry. And what we have here is literally a scientific, we very rightly might call it a scientific sensation or breakthrough. And you are intending to unveil it for us today, because until now it has been closely kept under wraps. A scientific sensation. You can let plants grow in a way they used to in the past, millions of years ago. And I mean plants that normally do not grow like that today anymore. You found a way to trace them back over millions of years. What did they look like back then? Maybe you could unveil the secret for us now. This is a fern, a common wood fern that everybody is familiar with. We took spores from one of these common wood ferns and placed it within an electrostatic field. And what came out of it is this. And this is supposed to be a plant that has not been growing anywhere like this for over a century or even a millennium? That is correct, and there are several hints to that end. There are ferns exactly like this that have been found and excavated in petrified form. This picture shows that particular fern. If you take a close look at the leaves here, you will see them match very closely. A wood fern with its feathered leaves had turned into a hart's tongue fern with roundish pointed tongue-like leaves. Some scientists at Ciba-Geigy call this a primordial fern. Plants that stem from ancient times, maybe from the time of the dinosaurs, maybe even from the time before that, the scientists can only speculate at this point as to the specifics. Either way, this is a jump back within evolutionary history, brought about by spores of our common fern, i.e. its procreation cells of today, placed and treated in an electrostatic field, set up and executed within the research laboratories of the chemical corporation Ciba-Geigy, based in Basel, Switzerland. But the results presented to the public 4 years ago were merely a part of the actual experiments conducted. Further experiments had been completed on other plants as well as fish. Here we see Ciba-Geigy board member Heimo Brunetti with ordinary plant samples. Example: corn. The petri dishes filled with artificial soil and water. Corn seeds are planted. Ciba-Geigy researcher Heinz Schürch is preparing an experiment. Electrostatic fields. Voltage fields where no regular electricity is flowing. Here we find direct current from 1 volt up to several 10,000 volts, depending on the experimental setup. The possibilities that may have been dreamt up by the alchemists hundreds of years ago are now turning into reality, contrary to the established doctrines of contemporary science, right here in the laboratory. A Nobel Prize caliber discovery. For 3 days, the corn seeds are placed in the electrostatic field, hermetically sealed off from the surrounding air and humidity. After this phase, the sprouts can grow normally like any other plant, and they will continue to grow. The results after a conventional duration of growth? Here, for example, we have one of these special corn plants. And if you look closely, you will see the special thing about it. Here we have several cobs of corn growing on one plant at the same time, 5 to be exact. Whereas usually we would only find 1 cob per corn plant. The corn plant obviously seems to remember the way it used to grow. No genetic manipulation, no chemical agents. Assumed benefits? Higher rate of seed germination, higher resistance and resilience against pests and harsh climates, no toxic contamination of our food. And this is corn as it grows today. The most commonly selected strains are hybrids, highly refined and cultivated, and very susceptible, whose seeds cannot be reused. This in effect means that the farmer is forced to buy new seeds every year, and not only corn seeds. The production of the seeds for sowing, on the other hand, is managed and dominated by multinational corporations, the food industry, the pesticide and herbicide industry, as well as the petrochemical industry. The same corporations that also sell fertilizer, herbicide and pesticide chemicals to the same farmers. For the chemical industry, this entails a billion-dollar market. The same also applies to certain products made by Ciba geigy, such as Gardoprim, Dual and Anofex, commonly utilized for silage maize and grain maize. It is chemicals and chemistry that determine our handling of agriculture and food today. We come to the realization what significance the Ciba geigy experiments actually carry. The basal chemistry giant. Annual sales volume 22 million Swiss francs. 49,000 employees. Statistically speaking, any employee will sell chemical products amounting to 235,000 Swiss francs each year. Research into and with electrostatic fields means, and looked at through the eyes of the salesman in chemical products, has to mean sawing away at the very branch one is sitting on. Because the experiment's results clearly show there is another way that does not involve chemistry, at least in a few areas. So what does this research result mean to you as a scientist, now that you are able to regrow life forms from millions of years ago? Well, the significance lies in the circumstance that we can reintroduce and reactivate certain hereditary traits that had previously been lost through degeneration or breeding. The most spectacular experiment along these lines made by Ciba geigy to date involves the common and widely available rainbow trouts. Eggs are being extracted from a female rainbow trout in the laboratory. These eggs are artificially fertilized and consecutively placed in an electrostatic field for 4 weeks. The experimental setup is the same as with the previously tested varieties of wheat, ferns and corn. Herbertsville near Solothurn in Switzerland, a fish breeding firm. In one fish tank, the trout spawned from eggs treated in Ciba geigy's electrostatic fields. In the other fish tank, the untreated, common trouts. Same origin, different fish. The proof. Common and widely available rainbow trouts, popular in regular fish stores and restaurants. 2 to 4 years old. They move slowly, are all but tame. In the other tank, trouts of exactly the same age spawn through the experiments with electrostatic fields. They are 1/3 larger, heavier, meatier, stronger. Conventional rainbow trouts, colors only faint. Upper and lower jaw are not very pronounced. Teeth are mostly underdeveloped if they do exist at all. The opposite can be observed within the experimental group. They have stronger teeth and more of them. We also notice much stronger colors. Fully grown male specimens feature a lower jaw that has developed into a powerful hook, comparable to those of wild salmon. The Research Institute for Fish of the Confederation in Bern has described the specimen as a primordial form of trout that practically went extinct more than 150 years ago. Until this day, no natural scientific explanation has been offered, neither for the trouts nor for the plants. These results, once again, are nothing short of a major scientific breakthrough. And once again, as previously explored in reference to the plant experiments, we find a conflict of interest at Ciba-Geigy, such as the sales of medicine for fish farms, for example. The product Actomar is part of the company's business model, but these trouts do not need anything, and hence no business can be done. The European Patent Office in Munich, Germany. Here, the Swiss researchers registered the patent for their invention 3 years ago. Applicant, Ciba-Geigy. Inventors, the guests of Kurt Felix's TV program, Guido Ebner and Heinz Schürch. In the patent specification we read, the proposed invention concerns a newly developed method that leads to permanent, useful and desirable traits in fish that cannot be achieved by conventional means or merely, if they can be achieved at all, at a considerable increase in expenditure and effort. Due to the simplicity of the procedural methods involved, the breeding of freshwater fish and saltwater fish is drastically improved. Firstly, a significantly higher rate of hatching can be documented, often ranging from 100 to 300% increase. The fish's high survivability rate is especially significant in this regard, which becomes all the more explicit once the fact is taken into consideration that any medicinal treatment with these specimens can be avoided altogether. Additional benefits are grounded in the circumstance that specimen treated with the proposed procedure will grow much faster in size and weight at the same rate of nutrient intake compared to conventional specimen, and that they hence can be made available as edible fish much sooner. This is a very important and meaningful scientific discovery. Unrivaled characteristics, unimagined possibilities. The research in this field has been halted completely. The patent now rests in a drawer of the European Patent Office, imitation prohibited. According to their own business report, Ciba-Geigy is the world's market leader in pesticide sales, tendency rising. So, no more experiments? Their business report reads, Ciba-Geigy's priorities and choices are oriented towards long-term securement of the company's livelihood and continued existence. We introduced you to 2 researchers today, one of which has gone into retirement by now, the other currently works in a different research field at Ciba-Geigy. Of course, you may ask yourself, what does the company actually say to all of this, to the discontinuation of these experiments? We have tried in vain to get an interview with Ciba this afternoon, but we did receive a telefax by their press office. The telefax reads, Ciba has completely abandoned these investigations by now. No further scientific inquiries or studies in this field have been undertaken, since the research field in question does not align with one of Ciba's core areas of activity. Due to this reason, it is common within the research industry that many, often interesting, approaches and projects of an explorative nature are discontinued and abandoned.